Surprise you with a This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update right here from Jeff City. And I had a buddy of mine stop in, Mr. McCloskey. Welcome to our live stream.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You look very sharp. I like the pin there. I bet Susan Klein likes that pin about Right to Life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so you just went and filed. I've asked you this on TV. I've asked you this at Jen's Diner in Butler County. What would make a guy, I think we all know what house you live in. What would make a guy that lives in that house want to get into politics and everybody take a bite out of him?
Well, it's just a glutton for abuse.
There's some truth in that.
Well, after the second assault in our house on July the 3rd, when President Trump, guys got better things to do than worry about two nobody lawyers in St. Louis. But he really came to bat for us, and we went to work for him. And, when we were doing as many as 14 rallies a day on behalf of the president, we were doing 7 set rallies a day, plus between each one of the organized rallies, we'd stop at contributors' offices or restaurants and things like that. So 12, 14 times a day, we'd be getting off the Team Trump bus and talking about what this president had done for the United States. And and every place we stopped, people were basically upset at the loss of civil liberties and upset at the loss of the freedom they used to have and the intrusion of the federal government into everybody's lives. But I tell you, the other thing we learned at every stop is little stories of personal miracles, how God had come into people's lives and inspired them, made them better people and better parents, more and better contributors to their community and to their families and to their church. And as time went on, we realized that was happening to us, that this was something which was a calling which we were compelled to do. And so when we kept doing the campaign, when the campaign was over, Patty and I just kept doing the same thing we've been doing on the campaign. For just for ourselves, we started putting on presentations on our God-given rights in the Constitution in the rotunda of the Capitol here. Mm-hmm. And then folks liked what we had to say and invited us to Republican Lincoln Reagan Day dinners, and people started liking us, what we had to say there. And then when Roy Blunt decided he wasn't going to run for re-election, we just started getting calls. And people asked me if I was interested in doing it. And I always tell the story about when I was talking about doing it, called a buddy of mine who was in the Reagan administration. I said, "What do you think about me running for the Senate?" And he said, "Well, just go outside, drive some nails through your feet.
Yeah.
You'll feel better and it won't take as long." But nonetheless, I'm doing it.
We got to talk about one of this breaking news. This is something that I got to learn about you visiting with you, but I don't know that many folks that know. You have a lot of experience in working with foreign policy. In the 80s, helping Colonel North, President Reagan, helping the Contras in Iran. Right now, Russia's invading Ukraine.
Yeah.
This is the type of thing. As a member of Congress, I don't know how many people come up to you, but as a senator, you will get asked. These are issues that, especially if you have seniority, you will be brought into. Give me your take right now on what's happening and what should the U.S. be doing about it.
Well, it takes a lot of background. Most Americans don't know much about Ukraine. Ukraine was founded by some Vikings back in the 9th century, and it was a headquarters. It was the capital of what was then the Russian Empire.
They used to run Russia with the Kievan Rus.
Yeah, the Kievan Rus for 400 years were the rulers of the Russian Empire, and so there's a lot of interest and a lot of Russian heritage in Ukraine. But more than that, I have a hard time finding any vital U.S. interest in the dispute between the Russians and the Ukrainians. On the other hand, I've been down to the Texas border, and I've seen a real border crisis. I've seen a real invasion, and an invasion that directly and materially affects the vital interests of the United States. If the federal government wants to spend some money and some human capital on fixing a border, they ought to fix ours.
I'm a big believer that you take the media as it comes. You're a smart person, you size it up. But if you really see, I think the media has lost a lot of credibility with folks. And if you look at what's happening today, if this would have happened 2 years ago, they would have been people completely out of their minds, calling President Trump anything they could possibly call him. In this environment, you really do. I don't know what Joe Biden could do, frankly, or Trump could do. Probably nothing. But the stark contrast, there's not one person, even the most liberal person watching this, that could say that the media coverage wouldn't be 180 degrees different if Trump was in office.
Well, and not just the media coverage in this country, but the international respect for the United States. Even if Trump were president, and we may not be willing to commit 500,000 forces to go over and fight Russia right now, which I think would be a very terrible idea, but the Russians would be worried it might happen. They're not worried about it now.
No. I tell you this. I was going to ask you kind of what sets you apart, but I'll give you this, and I mean this as a compliment. There ain't many people that could file for U.S. Senate and come just set live stream talk. You could say whatever, people give you grief about it. You could have an aching moment, whatever you want to call them. But you walked over and filed, and you come over here, and we just turned the camera on. I was going to ask you what separates you, but there's not every candidate in this field could just sit and talk hogs, dogs, and logs like this right after you file.
Well, I'm not a politician. I'm not even I'm just an ordinary guy that's taken it upon himself to try to fix this country and pull back our freedoms. I don't have anything to hide. I don't have any ulterior motives. I don't have any lobbyists or political consultants or fat cat billionaires funding me that I'm beholden to. I'm just a guy out there that spent my lifetime recognizing the constant erosion of our civil liberties and the constant movement of this country to the left. And I kind of get the impression that the left is constantly doing focus groups and constantly finding out where they can stretch the issue, where the people, where the breaking point is for the average person on issues such as personal liberty and governmental control. And I think they found out with the COVID lockdowns that there's no limit now, that they can absolutely control everybody and get almost no blowback.
I have a theory. I can mention two things to folks and pretty well size up where they come from. And again, people have their own opinions. I'm probably the most tolerant person you can run into in this state. However, if you ask somebody about Mask or Mark McCloskey, I can tell by looking on their face with about 2 seconds where they're going. I can pretty much tell you a lot about you by asking one of those two questions and kind of size you up. So let's dig into this race a little bit here. You're in. You got how many? You got the Attorney General. You got Greitens, the 2 members of Congress. You got Dave Schatz. You and Dave Schatz have some similarities. You've both been successful in business. You're both kind of men's men. Billy Long is funny. I mean, what is your take about Billy? He's just sort of talking to throwing shade on everybody, right?
Well, Billy, he's become more aggressive in the last couple of weeks, and he's really unloaded with both barrels on Vicky today, and yeah. And all this started some time ago. I can't remember where we were, but Patty and I hit every Republican function we can and talk to as many people as possible. But Vicky said something at a meeting where Billy wasn't there, and Billy took offense at it, and I think rightfully so. And I think he's been a little upset about it ever since. I was a little offended by it too. I mean, everybody, to my knowledge, with the exception of Eric Greitens, are good Christians running this race. But Vicky said something about how she was had been closer to God in her life than the other candidates. And I think Billy found that to be offensive for her to make that allegation.
That's pretty okay. I get it now. That's pretty stout.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that would be hard to back up. I would reckon.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So right now in the race, it looks to me like there's a couple primaries. You got within the primary. You've had some folks. It feels like coalescing behind Congresswoman Hartzler, and I think, frankly, not that many folks are real excited about Eric Greitens being the senator. Now, he has his support, no question.
No, he does.
It's a chunk of support.
And he came in to file today with his entourage like he always does. So I
was surprised. Have there been more Sasquatch or Eric Greitens sightings in Missouri? I mean, you travel the state as much as anybody. I'm just pulling your leg.
You might remember this. At last year's state Lincoln Reagan days, there was a wanted poster posted in the bathroom with Eric Greitens' picture in a slash circle saying, "Wanted, have you seen this man?"
Well, sometimes he is wanted. That's no joke. So break the race down for me. Now, one thing always that you probably need less money than some of the other ones because there isn't a gun owner in rural Missouri that doesn't know you, and they might not recognize you without the pink shirt and the gun, but they recognize the name.
Yeah, but just in case anybody shouldn't know who I am, I always carry these with me.
Yep, I've got one. Well, I'll give it to my dad.
So, now here's the thing, right?
Tell me about the money, though, when you break down the campaign stuff.
Well, there's one thing I'm not going to have. I can tell you right now, unless some miracle happens, and I'm not even sure I want it, I'm not going to be able to compete with Eric Greitens or Eric Schmidt dollar for dollar because they've got billionaire backers. They've got millions of dollars in their super PACs. But what I've got is a large number of grassroots supporters, a much larger number than any of the other candidates. And so I have to fight big dollars with big effort. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around, as I have been doing, talking to as many human beings as possible, showing up at every meeting. And Patty, who's the brains of this outfit.
She's the campaign manager, the looks, brains.
Yeah, everything. But the concept is that people need to know that in the last few weeks of this election, before the primary, the big dollars are going to hit the TV market, and they're going to be slinging mud at each other, and I assume they're going to find some mud to sling at me. And people just need to know that they shouldn't be swayed by the last 2 weeks of TV advertising. That doesn't tell you what the character or the qualifications of the candidate. There is a disdain for the voters in politicians these days, where they don't have to campaign. Where I think Joe Biden showed, if nothing else, that assuming that for those people that believe the last election was honest and credible, that Joe Biden could get elected president from his basement and let the media do his talking for him. Both of the people that are portrayed as front runners of this campaign, they don't show up. They don't show up for local committee meetings. They don't show up in the Lincoln Reagan days. They don't think it's necessary to actually go out there and meet the public. I used to have an employee that always phrased things. I kind of get the impression that, but I kind of get the impression that both Eric Schmidt and Eric Greitens think that they don't have to campaign, that they will litter the market with tens of millions of dollars worth of TV advertising in the last couple of weeks of this campaign, because in the words of Citizen Kane, the people will think what I tell them to think, and that I think is the attitude of the.
You think there's a little? My gut tells me. I've watched a few of these. I have a high regard for people that actually run. You see sometimes the media they could deride. Running for office is hard. You'll know Citizen Kane lost his election.
Yeah, he did.
But my just hillbilly observation is sometime there's going to be some impressions for him. But really, folks get back from Memorial Day, they'll take a look at this race, and I'll bet you that you see a break in June. There probably doesn't change much unless events, kind of stick in. So on the campaign trail, I see you and your wife. If you want to see you, stop at the Kingdom City gas station there, the one with the Arby's, and I've probably seen you 4 times going back and forth, and you'll be on the phone, I'll be on the phone, I'll kind of give you the head wave. But how do you get these grassroots folks? This is a question I think when you first came on my TV show. I see it Lincoln Day. I see people come on their picture with you. I see folks want one of them made out to them or their kin folks. How do you turn those into organized folks out pushing for you?
Well, we're doing it now. We're hitting all the volunteer lists and getting them organized. We're going to back when I had.
Now, who does that for you? Because you can't do that.
Well, no, Sonia McDowell's come on board now.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, she's doing my grassroots fundraising.
Well, she knows a little bit about running for office. I mean, she's run them same roads. And
yeah, she had.
She's a spitfire too. I kind of like her.
Yeah,
even when she gives me hell, she kind of does it in a funny way. I kind of like it.
So she's fired up the grassroots and organizing them, and she's very good at it.
I like her videos too. Yeah. She'll just give hell to somebody. I mean, but she does it in an energy. She's got energy. I like it.
I know, and we're kind of on the eager beaver end of this business too, so we like somebody else who's out there with a lot of energy. I mean, I was other than Sarah Walsh, I was the first person there this morning, and so.
Well, she didn't have as far to drive, right? You had to come home and say. Oh, I want to thank my buddy Kyle, the best man in the construction industry in Columbia for this time. You all, if you're in town for filing or something, tonight, our Statesman of the Year event was honoring Senator Blunt, be at the Farm Bureau on the first floor. We're going to have Senator Caskill, we'll have Cliff Smart, Moon Choi, we'll have the previous award winners all there, from Caleb Jones to Dean Blocker will be there. Come join us about 6 o'clock at the Farm Bureau. We'll have as you know, we'll have bar open, we'll have food there. It's going to be a good time. Honor a person who truly deserves it, a man that you're looking to succeed in the Senate. And thank you, Kyle, for the steins. If you're in town and you give me one of these steins, you've mailed it to me, you got to come by and see them. I've got them. I had to get a whole other room over here to help put them into. So we're very grateful for the generosity of folks that watch. Last couple questions. Break me down how you, in a crowded field, you are set apart, I think. There's nobody that has your background in this. How do you come in if, say, Donald Trump endorses somebody, and it's not you?
Well, the endorsement of the president would be very helpful.
Sure.
And it will be a big booster if whoever gets it. However, his endorsements don't guarantee victory. Mm-mm. It's still up to the candidate. It's still up to the personality and the platform of the candidate. And
how does it work in a race like with Josh Hawley? Does he call you and say, "Look, I'm glad you're running, but I'm going to endorse your opponent tomorrow"? How does that work in a big race like that?
Well, it didn't work in my case, and it didn't work in Billy's case, because I don't know about the other candidates, but Josh said that before announcing his endorsement of Vicky Hartzler, he called all the candidates and gave them a heads up. Well, he's got my cell phone number. Didn't call me.
Billy, well, I knew you guys knew each other. Yeah, he's talked about you on TV. So.
Yeah, and Billy didn't get a heads up either. But that's that doesn't make any difference to me. I mean, it wouldn't have made any difference in my life if he told me 10 minutes ahead of time or not.
Sure. I think Josh Hawley's probably the best endorsement of an office holder. But I don't think that carries much. What'll be interesting to me is he going to go shake the bush and raise money for the person he endorses? Is he going to come to Missouri and stump for it? And I have no idea whether he will or not. But an individual endorsement, even of probably the best one you could get, I don't think it has a lot of value anymore, as much as they used to, right?
I think that's true. I think that the machine politics isn't as strong as it used to be. There's more individualism. There's more access through the internet through things like we're doing right here today.
I get the hunch you won't get the Post-Dispatch endorsement.
I don't think so now. Or the Kansas City
There you go.
Or basically any mainstream media, I can tell you that.
They make me a lot of money giving me grief, so I don't want to say anything nice about it. They might change it too.
Well, I say this 100 times a day, that unless the mainstream media is giving you, you're not doing your job right.
Well, I tell you, and that is not just a person who's been in the fire like you have. There's a lot of folks. I mean, the Post-Dispatch endorsed a person in the last hated primary. It was in 2016. They came in 4th out of 4. I mean, it's just the days of letting folks be persuaded by stuff like that. Even in a politician endorsement, I just think it's waning. Yeah. So you leave here, where you headed to?
Well, I'm going to go back to the office today. I've got some stuff. I'm actually trying a lawsuit.
Actual work, yeah.
Trying a lawsuit. Next Monday, we're going to be down at CPAC the rest of the week, and so I've got to get ready for trial.
What is it? For folks that don't know, or maybe I've heard of CPAC. What is that?
Well, it's a Matt Schlapp's organization. It's an opportunity for conservative Republicans to get together. Hear other conservative Republicans.
Is it kind of like a Lincoln Day thing?
Yeah, it's like a Lincoln Day thing. It's a big networking.
Do you have like hospitality suites, or how does that?
There are, and lots and lots of people speaking. Billy's going to speak. Billy Long. I think Eric Schmidt's got a speaking engagement down there.
Mm-hmm. So they going to give you the microphone?
Well, I've asked them to. We shall see. And then there's a big media spread too, so everybody gets a chance to talk to lots of the media. It'll be my first time down there because this is my first time being a politician, right? So
you've never been to it before?
Nope. So,
I thought maybe they'd invited you.
Last year. I did not go last year. Actually, I was planning on going, but then I think what happened was I went down to Texas instead, and my buddy Colonel Allen West down there, I think may end up being the governor of Texas.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's ahead in the polls. There's an example. For example, the president endorsed Greg Abbott, and Allen West may beat him.
So tell me this, the question folks ask, I think, when you leave the room, are you going to put, you obviously have been successful in life. You're a candidate that might be able to afford to put some money in where some other candidates don't. Are you considering helping fund the race on your own?
Well, I have been so far, and just in that I don't charge the campaign for anything I do.
Well, sure.
And I pay for a lot of the stuff out of my own pocket. But I've had this feeling from the get-go that if the people of Missouri don't want to support me as a senator, I shouldn't be a senator. I'm not a big believer in rich guys buying their way into office. Mm-hmm. I think that it should be up to the people. And similarly, I don't think, I'll try to avoid saying as many nasty things as I can. But when you see Josh Hawley, for example, endorsing Vicky Hartzler, and they have the same campaign consultants, and you see Ted Cruz endorsing Eric Schmidt, and they've got the same campaign consultants, you wonder, which is a horse and which is a carriage.
It is an interesting thing. I mean, I watched it at the state level. The consultants helped build this majority. The majority came faster to Missouri because you had scrappers. They were out pushing for their candidates, get them elected, and these folks have went on. They've been very successful. Obviously, Missouri was turning. I believe it turned faster because of the consultants. But now, when you go to run for Senate, everybody's going to get their own consultant. It almost, I'm not saying it's counterproductive. There was a time when it was vital to the Missouri Republican Party. Now, a reasonable person can make the argument it's less violent, and sometimes almost causes problems.
Yeah. Well, and people ask me about turbulence, and I'm ambivalent about term limits for this reason, that if you want the status quo to remain the same, then just keep changing out the elected representatives, and then the consultants and the lobbyists.
Like we're still good.
Consultants and the lobbyists end up running the government. They are the permanent government. They are the deep state. And so, we have term limits. They're called elections. If you don't like people that are in office, vote them out. The problem is that under a current system, when you're an incumbent and you've got the machine behind you and you've got the consultants behind you and the lobbyists behind you, it's very difficult to upset that and an unseated incumbent. But it's worse in my opinion. Let's say you're a freshman congressman and you show up at Washington D.C. Somebody's going to put their arm around you and say, "I'll tell you how this works here. You follow me and I'll show you the ropes." Well, those ropes were the same ropes that have tied us up for decades. And it's time that we got to break free of those ropes and elect people that are not tied down, people that are unaffiliated, people that actually bring some fresh ideas to the marketplace, and not be afraid to make some waves.
Well, I sure appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Appreciate you stopping in. I do commend you. There's not that many candidates running for Senate that would go over and file and come and talk for 20 minutes about anything in the world to ask and visit about. I appreciate your candor. It has been one of the fun things from the time I saw you at Jen's Diner till today. I really think when you say something, you come off like you actually believe it. And I think that I don't know, genuine quality. I mean, whatever you say about Trump, right? Was Trump the most conservative? No. Was he? But what you got into Trump, I don't have any doubt that when he says something, that's what he actually thinks. Because he some of the opinions you wouldn't say unless you wouldn't strategically set that. But I think I watched some of the people, he'd make a mistake. Folks would think it was a mistake. I think that kind of stuff makes him more human and makes him more, and really helped him at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, and if you've got to have everything written out for you and you sit there and you read it, I mean, how genuine can that be? Maybe I just lack a memory or something where I can't remember my prepared speeches. But if I just say what I actually think, it's pretty gosh darn easy. It's just like what I say to my clients before they go on the stand. So all you have to do is say what really happened, and you don't have to remember anything, right? You just tell your story the way it really happened, and you're not going to get screwed up. In my case, I just tell the people I actually believe in and ask them what they think about it. And if they want me to be a senator, that's a great thing, but only for them, because I'm not doing this for me. If you'd asked me 2 years ago what I wanted most in the world, I would have said, for the world to leave me the heck alone. Let me live out the rest of my life in peace and comfort. But this is something that I feel now compelled to do. The people want that. The people think that having a real outsider in government, a real outsider who's not afraid to stand up and do everything.
I asked you this on TV, but it's on my mind. So I saw Cori Bush came and filed today, the congresswoman. I met her dad, right? Her dad, very nice man. He's an alderman up at Northwoods in your county. He's very proud of his daughter, as he are. I mean, good Lord, your daughter has risen to be a member of Congress. If there's a person that's an African American, tell me why they should vote for you.
Well, I can tell you, I've lived in the city of St. Louis for the last 34 years. I grew up in a suburb of St. Louis, but I've been actually in the city of St. Louis since 1988. In that period of time, most of North St. Louis has become vacant property, become a war zone. I think the city of St. Louis owns something like 10,000 abandoned properties in North St. Louis. That's an example of what 70-some years of single-party Democrat rule has done for the citizens of St. Louis. And our mayor and our circuit attorney have vowed not to prosecute crimes, not to prosecute drug crimes or sex crimes. If you're living in St. Louis and you're a minority and you see your civilization decaying around you and you see your neighborhood deteriorating and see crime rampant and drug use rampant and you hear gunfire all the time. I mean, Tashara Jones joked about going to bed to the lullaby of gunfire when she was on television recently. You shouldn't have to tolerate that. Yet, if you're thinking about who is going to best represent you, what entity is best going to have the highest probability of improving your lifestyle, making your life more successful, making it safer, making your neighborhoods cleaner and more desirable, is it the same party that has caused St. Louis to go from a population of 1 million to a population of 300,000? Or is it maybe that party that builds entrepreneurship and builds through individual spirit and determination, that it gives people inspiration to pull themselves up and to improve themselves or the party that says, we like drug use, we like homelessness, we like crime, and by the way, if you stand up against crime, we'll prosecute you.
It's it is an interesting thing. I think folks that don't know your story, that haven't really sit and talked to you, probably don't know the depth of you as a person. And it's an interesting thing to watch intelligent people run and try to break down complicated things anymore. Folks kind of speak in Twitter sound bites. And that's because people blame politicians behave in a way that the culture wants. That's how you stay in and are successful, you know. It's interesting to hear people that talk about stuff like that because most folks avoid that topic. But Mr. Klusk, I appreciate you coming in. Appreciate the chat.
Appreciate having me.
We'll be seeing you tonight at Farm Bureau about 6 o'clock, Cinder Blunt. We may pop up. We might keep a little eye on your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever folks are watching. We may have another person or two drop in this afternoon. You never know what we might be having going on here. Thank you all.